allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, need a motion to declare an open meeting?
So moved.
Second. Moved and second, declare an open meeting, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Number 4, notification of Open Meetings Act, it's posted on the door in the back of the room. Roll call, Melissa.
Yep.
Justin is unexcused. Linda's here, Wyatt.
Present.
Katie.
Here.
And Chance. Here. Okay, number 6, approve the agenda. We've got any changes?
No adjustments.
Somebody wants to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Moving second to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Number 7, we got public comment. Anybody want to speak tonight? Okay, if not, we'll go on to our discussion items. Number 8, the 25-26 budget priorities.
Well, okay, so I've prepared a budget for your consideration. It's one of the primary responsibilities, obviously, that you tasked me with. The budget belongs to the school board, but obviously you depend on the superintendent to essentially do the legwork. And then when we get to, when we start to get to this point, you may direct me to move some numbers here, there, or wherever else. But I generally, I think I understand to a great degree through conversations with the full board and with the budget committee on how to prepare a draft that's probably pretty close, we hope, to the one that we're gonna present to the public at the hearing and you're gonna adopt within the next month. So, I'm gonna kind of just run through these tabs, not gonna stop and talk about, most of these tabs get populated from other tabs. Once I get real data, like valuation numbers, and put in some of last year's data and levies and such, most of these tabs down here get, would you hit that right, or that white switch maybe, might be a little helpful. So they just get pre-populated. So we've got data on here from 23, 24, real numbers that come from our audit. So in fact, I'll just go to that right now. So these are, actual numbers from our audit that are just part of this document. They won't be part of our budget hearing. It's just another tab on this document that if folks want to, you have this in an audit form. You have this in an audit form. So I put this together just from our AFR or our audit, and then we have actual estimated. This one is done to a great degree by Kelly, who has all these codes, so, and hers has about 10 times the amount of cells in her spreadsheet. So when you've got a number that just is your general fund, that shows general fund up there, her general fund spreadsheet is many, many, many pages long because she's got a coding system that she uses. This just gives you numbers for each fund, right? So these are actual estimated. We've got a week left in this fiscal year. So Kelly, they still call it estimated, even though these are gonna be very, very close, because she knows what monies are still gonna go out in this fiscal year in the next week. And in most of our codes, nothing's gonna be going out. So, but they have to call it estimated because it's before September 1. Right, even though we're gonna adopt a budget for next year after September 1, that's just the way the budget form works. So, we start with the basic data input. Let's see, my bad. The basic data input, the interlocal form. So we always have an interlocal with our ESU 8 because we pay them for certain services. I did include the interlocal that we have with the city of Plainview. It's just documentation that it exists. It's not incredibly relevant to our budget, but they want to be aware of it. Cover page, so just provide some general specificity. Once I plug this number in right here, the certified valuations for all counties. That's what really unlocks all the previous work you do in the budget, because you do most of the budget work with a guesstimation on your certified values. When you get your certified values, you plug that in. Now you're dealing with real numbers. I think as I shared with you on an email, just to confirm, our certified valuations went up a total of 12.6%. So that's the third year in a row of double digits. We had several years in a row after the spikes of about 12 years ago. We had significant spikes, but I don't have to tell you this, I know you guys all know this. Then we started to have valuation increases between 5 and 7%. Well, now we've had double digits now for 3 years in a row again. So 12.6 total. Pierce County went up 9%, Antelope County went up 21%. Knox went up 5.4. That's not great. I don't think that Antelope went up 21% because that's 80% of our voters in the Antelope County area of our district are agriculture folks, and so they take a good hit for sure. But anyway, I think that's probably relevant data to some people. Again,
It was flip-flop last year.
Pierce was higher than Antelope.
Pierce went up almost 30%.
Okay,
last year.
yeah.
It seems like we're kind of in the cycle where they almost flip-flop. Anyway,
Yeah.
we're making some serious moves in valuations.
Pierce was what, 9%, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Pierce was 9.
No.
Antelope 21, Knox 5.4, for a total 12.6. So again, those are just, I know that's a source of irritation for folks. I understand it, but it is the rule that we have to operate with. For right or wrong, better or worse, I mean, we know that our governor and our unicameral are trying to tackle this, have been for years and years and years, but they seem to be more serious about it now than I can ever remember as a superintendent. And certainly we're in our third year of foundation aid from the state, so you guys know that our state aid has gone from essentially 0 to almost 600,000. So that's a factor, to kind of help move in that direction, but I think that's not a permanent solution. So here's 25-26 budget adopted. This is just a spreadsheet here. This one won't be actually part of our hearing, but I can come back to it. 24-25 estimated, 23-24 actual, okay? And then there's just a handful of pages that are required by the APA. This is one of the most important documents. This is a pink postcard document. Okay, so I go, but every time I tweak the budget when I'm working with it, every time I tweak it and upload it back to the LC2, I come and look and see what this says. Okay, we want to avoid the pink postcard. Now, you don't do so at the expense of making sure you can fund your school. If you've got requirements to fund your school and they're X amount of dollars and it requires you to go to the JPA or the pink postcard meeting, so be it. You have to go and you have to be able to justify that. We did have to go 3 years ago. We haven't had to go the last 2 years, and the budget that I'm sharing with you tonight doesn't require us to go. See, notice right here, if line 7 is less than line 6, you're not required. If 7 is less than 6, so notice I've got it within
$400.
about, $400. So, and I can, last year I had it within 10. Now, it's just a philosophical approach, I guess. We don't want to have to attend that meeting just because of the perception is that you're not staying within state recognized budget constraints. You gotta fund your school, you gotta fund your priorities, and so if you do have to go, I talked to my friend at Pierce, they have to go, according to him, last week, unless they've made some changes, and I think my friend at Osmond, so I think both Osmond and Pierce Public Schools have to go to the pink postcard meeting. And you know what, that's their business, that's what is necessary for them to fund their school.
So they give you, the state gives you 2% all the time?
Yes.
Every school?
Yes.
That 0.54% comes in due to the other formula.
yes, this is all formulated. I don't input any of this. It comes from, these other tabs. So it's from that TIOSA formula. You'll hear a little more maybe about, the governor's commission to address TIOSA, which is our 30-plus-year-old school funding formula, which just about anybody that says, that if they say they understand it, they're probably not being honest. But it doesn't have a whole lot of fans from coast to coast in Nebraska. It's not been a factor for Plainview for many, many years, and still to a certain degree really isn't. TIOSA really doesn't affect us to a great degree. But we can't ignore it completely, and this is a factor. This has a lot to do with, it comes through, the TIOSA document. Some formula in there is what creates this. So this budget that I believe funds our school for 25-26 does not require us to go to the pink postcard meeting, which is being held here in Plainview, so it'd be kind of nice. It's held at the Plainview City Library, and Plainview doesn't have to attend. This includes all taxing entities, by the way, cities, fire departments, schools, so any taxing entity. It's not just, pink postcard isn't just for schools. So some of the forms don't apply to us. This one doesn't apply. This one is pre-populated, levy lid compliance. Some of these forms I don't even have to turn into. This whole document does not have to go to the Department of Ed or to the auditor, but they do provide a whole heck of a lot of extra pages. This is the superintendent pay transparency notice. Okay, so this is what I have to upload to our website. I have to project. Essentially, I take this year's, what this current contract is, I just double it over here, because my contract for this year essentially rolls into year 2. So the total cost of my contract, is the right-hand column. So this is just, again, a requirement of the state of Nebraska, superintendent pay transparency. This is pre-populated, okay, and now this is the document that would be part of our hearing. Okay, and a couple things that I need to make sure I point out here are, what you budget, so that, what you budget and what your totals are gonna be, are gonna be different. So notice that's actual estimated. Okay, so this number is pretty close to what the real number is gonna be in a week. This is from our AFR, so this is an actual number. Okay, we are not planning to spend $3 million plus more in this budget year than this budget year. Okay, next year this number will be closer to this. Okay, but we have to show what is in every account, every fund. We have to show what is the balance of those funds. It doesn't mean we're going to spend all this, but we have to show what's been budgeted or what's allowed. Okay, and that's why we always have an inflated number down here. I don't know if that's the best way to explain it. This isn't what you're going to spend, it's what you budget. And this doesn't automatically kick out this is what you need to ask for in property taxes now. Okay, so these are always inflated. Your actuals are going to be what you actually spend. So I always kind of mention that every year, and I hope that makes some sense. But this is a public document. This one is part of our budget hearing. The most important document, though, folks, is this one right here. This is the one that if people said, I only want to see one page off this stinking spreadsheet, this is the one that folks care about, I think, quite honestly, for better or worse, whether they should or shouldn't. These are actual numbers, okay, and here's the proposed budget that I have for you. So what I direct your attention to is what most people kind of want to know. Just tell me in 10 seconds about the budget. Well, our property tax request would go down. We're going to ask for less money. Our levy is going to go from 55 cents to 48 cents. Okay, so just focusing on general fund. We've never had a levy under 50 cents. I looked through our history. Plainview Public Schools, and I'll show you a document here in a second. This would be the lowest levy for the general fund in the history of our school. Now,
Yeah, the highest evaluation.
I think that is, you know, and I wouldn't say that, Chance, right, I wouldn't say this is the lowest
No,
levy
I know.
without it, yeah, that is the rest of the story,
Yeah.
for sure. The levy drives, or the valuation does drive down the levy, but I do think at least it says, you know, we recognize that the valuations are going up. You're still paying more in taxes because they're saying your land is worth more than it was last year. I mean, I recognize all of that. But I think it's still worth saying, we recognize that, and we're allowing the levy to be driven down. And maybe more important than the levy is our property tax request. All expenses are going up, but we're gonna ask for less money.
So the total levy going from 57.8
Yes.
to 52.6.
Correct. So if we move from general fund, which, folks, is 80% set by your personnel expenses, right? Your general fund levy is 80% personnel, and then the other 20% operating budget, a whole heck of a lot on operation and maintenance of the building, utilities, transportation. So there's really not a lot of wiggle room on your general fund, because I know what 80% of our expense is gonna be. I know that. That's staffing. I don't know if we're gonna have, you know, a boiler go down, that we're gonna have a big expense, or an RTU unit, or a bus, you know, or a family, a high-needs sped kids. You know, that happens, and that can be a factor, because all of a sudden, you know, now we need 6 figures more to educate special needs population. I mean, those things happen. So you do budget for those, and you plan for those as best you can, because again, you can't go over budget. If that happens and you weren't budgeted for it, you amend your budget. I mean, that's just the way it is, in the middle of a fiscal year. Okay, so your general fund, you pretty much know. Your building fund, again, that's where you can talk about priorities. You know, hey, what do we got coming up? What do we need to spend some money on? This school board has used that, I think, very wisely, very effectively, and very necessarily over the past 10 years. We went from $0.015 up to 9 cents. Step-laddered our way up to 9 cents on the building levy, and we stayed there for a few years, and we were down to 2.2 last year. Okay, and I think you guys know, for the most part, what we spent those millions of dollars on. And you know, I'll be prepared to share that with anybody if anybody's curious, you know, about that. But I don't know that they are. I'm asking for a little more in this building fund. Asking you to consider a little more in the building fund next year for a couple of reasons. Number one, your general fund levy is low. Okay, so it's not like we've got, you know, a 50 plus 60 cent or whatever, you know, general fund levy. That's when we did have a 1.5 building fund levy, when we had 70-cent general fund levies about 15 years ago. What I'd like to do with the building fund, and this levy doesn't count for paying for Lincoln Avenue, by the way. Lincoln Avenue is gonna be paid for, well, let me back that up just a little bit. We're gonna use existing building levy funds, and we're gonna interfund loan from the general fund. Pay that bill this fall. Then when some of these funds come in, if we still need more funds, we'll pay general fund back in the same fiscal year. So we're gonna move $300,000 from general fund to building fund, and then back from building to general in the same fiscal year. Okay, but asking for a couple extra cents for bus barn, press box, stadium. Let's leave that out of any bond discussion, and just take care of it in the building fund. I think, without getting any estimates from any contractors, I don't think 4.2 cents will necessarily do it, because each penny is about $100,000. I don't know that 4.2 cents would necessarily do it, but this would probably be a multi-year project anyway. I'm not suggesting we build a new bus barn, or give it a modern makeover, or the same with the stadium or the press box. We've got a track structural resurface coming up, which is 80+ thousand, or it was when we built the track. So, let's leave those conversations completely out of maybe the conversations we have about this campus right here, and just take care of those in the building fund. But it does require increasing it from 2.2 to 4.2 for probably a year or more. But 4 cents is still less than half of where we were just 5 years ago, and still leaves us with a total levy, which is the lowest we've ever had. The full story, it's also the highest value. Every year will always be the highest total valuation we've ever had as well.
Most likely, yeah. I mean, I don't know how in the loop you are on other schools. I mean, are they able to operate by reducing their levy as well? Or is some of them still having to keep going up?
I have I have every school in Nebraska's levy and tax asking for 20 years. So I mean, but I don't talk to them too much about, you know, what are you seeing? How is it affecting your general levy? How are your valuations affecting your general levy? Because I would need to know what their operating expenses are, what their personnel expenses are. You know, I know that, I'll use our friends from Pierce. They have a total levy which is not dramatically higher than ours, but the percent of their operating expense compared to ours is bigger, right? So they need this much more money than us to operate, but their valuation, I might have said levy, their valuation is only this much more. So obviously they have to have a higher levy to operate than we do. So yes, if you would call us property rich, and is that a good thing for us? It's not a good thing, it's not a bad thing, it's just the reality. And it does enable us to have a lower levy, which I think is okay to say. I don't think that's anything we should be ashamed of. But I think it helps that we're trying to drive that levy down. Okay, so I would share also maybe this with you. Here's, you know, it is a history of our general levy for the past 20 years. So I think it's relevant. Obviously, this does follow the valuation increases over the years. As the valuation increases, the levy gets driven down. Okay, but
Do you have a tax asking graph of that?
I don't have this year's in it, but I mean I've got that. This is last year's. I did send this to you, so I will add onto here. So there's where your tax asking is. This year's next to this will be lower. Now, the building one will be a little higher, right? If we go to 4.2. So the red one will go up a touch. Blue will come down, green will come down. Blue is general total, yeah. So we'll have a shorter blue one, a shorter green one, a taller red one. Okay, so I'll just show you my worksheets. So this is the one I spend 90% of my time on. Actual numbers, and these get populated into some of those previous tabs. Actual estimated, these are pretty close. Kelly's gone through this twice, most recently last Friday. Budgeted numbers. So this right-hand column is what produces this. So my general fund tab, and then we'll go on to depreciation fund. I've got $150,000 that I budgeted in depreciation to put from general fund into depreciation. This would be again for capital investment items that depreciate in value that are significant in expense. So it's like a savings. Okay, we put some monies in it, multiple years in a row, then we can afford a large expenditure. Employee benefit fund, that's managed by Kelly to a great degree. Activities, always kind of, bump this up. So we had to amend our budget 3 years ago, if you remember, because we were over budget in activities. So I always go about $500,000 in activities. School nutrition, those two don't match. Special building, and there's your building fund.
So the depreciation, that's basically just to, like replace a bus or?
Yeah,
Or like
yeah,
work
chance.
on a bus or something like that, just like repairs, is that kind of what that's for?
Yeah, and 150,000 is a lot without having a precise idea. I mean, I think most schools, when you talk about a bus, and that's usually the number one example that we receive as young superintendents, what's depreciation for? It's usually when you need to buy a bus or 2 or 3. Now, some schools buy 10 or 8 or 15. So, okay, if I've got $250,000 in expense coming up every 5 years for a bus, let me put $25,000 in depreciation every year, which you don't even notice, don't even miss, and then every 5 years, I've got $125,000, and I buy that bus. 5 years later, I buy another bus. So we've not really used it too extensively. I just, you know, it's philosophical, kind of.
Why not just put that money like in a CD and then hold
Yeah.
it there?
Be similar. We could use flex money. We could use city flex money because money in depreciation doesn't accrue interest, right? So there's a variety of ways to kind of fund something. It's just one avenue that the Department of Ed gives us to fund a large capital expenditure that you can kind of plan for over the course of multiple years.
So does that count as like, kind of like the track that we're talking about?
Yeah, you could. You
Depreciation
can use
in a way,
depreciation, you could use building fund. Those are probably your two best avenues, because I've asked that question a couple times, what fund, what fund should I use this for? And they might tell me 2 or even 3 places. It could be general fund operations and maintenance, it could be building fund, it could be depreciation. So, so there's a variety of ways. It all comes from the same source, and then it follows whatever pathway you pay it. It's an accounting maneuver. And all of them are legit, all of them are legal, it's just philosophical.
So do we have any major surprises? Our general fund was just below last year. Did we have any major changes that we had to account for that we weren't expecting?
Well, in this fiscal year or anticipated?
Anticipated.
What's different this year in personnel is we added a staff member, right? We went without a staff member, but we also had some changeover. I had 2 more expensive staff members leave and hired 2 less expensive staff members. That doesn't make up the total difference on a whole new staff member with a master's degree and full family insurance. Okay, so I usually budget a minimum of $100,000 for every staff member. Some are lower, some are higher. When you throw in, retirement and Social Security and, we always love it when somebody says, I'm gonna stay on my parents' insurance, the young ones that come, because then they get a $5,500 stipend as opposed to an $18,000 individual, or somebody comes with a family, but you know what, that's just the way it is. That's the benefit that they deserve. So, so that didn't shift dramatically. I'm trying to think, and you can think with me, anything completely unexpected with regard to expenses this year. We've been talking about Lincoln Avenue for a while now, so that's not anything unexpected. Couple of change orders. I don't know what that's gonna amount to. I think city and school agreed whatever those change orders are, whether they're on the south side of Lincoln or the north side of Lincoln, we're gonna split them 50-50. Don't anticipate any change orders on Pine Street over there by the manor. That's a simple one. The most complicated part of the procedure are the spillways, where they're gonna move the water. I've had a couple of change orders. I'm getting off task just a little bit, but worth your knowing. The intent wasn't to pull out the fence from the west point all the way down to the grandstand, and now also from the east side of the grandstand all the way to the chute. Initially, that wasn't the intent, to pull that out and go ahead and pave right up to the track. On the west side, they needed to, minor engineering issue, but a minor engineering issue when you only have 4 inches to work with in about 400 feet. They needed a little more space to move water right there. It's a much cleaner, much better finish than having 3 feet of grass from the track to the concrete. So we like that look. On the east side, where it turns, where it's gonna turn and go south. They had a change from, we don't really need a sidewalk across the street north, right at that corner. And if we adjust that, it's gonna shift the spillway, and they called it, I don't know what the heck they called it. It wasn't a curb, they called it something else, whatever the lingo is. And they said, and we want to go ahead and pull this out and have this come flush to the track. And then, okay, so there's gonna be more concrete, and a little more work. Can they make that up elsewhere? Sometimes they try to do that, right? In the big paving scheme of Lincoln, it is kind of cheap to just go straight east to west that, 150 yards, and, we can make that up. The stuff they had to cut out in the west spillway was not gonna be tacked onto the bill. That was their issue. They ate that. Wasn't a whole heck of a lot, but, so, that's coming, but we're prepared to do that. It's in this budget to pay for it, the interfund loan, because we didn't put enough in building fund to cover that whole expense last year, but that's fine. We can move it from general. You beefed up your general fund by 2 cents last year. That does turn out to leave us with a little nicer starting balance. Something else I want to show you, and this was new for Kelly as well, and me. I needed to have an explanation on this as well. So revenues. I want to show you this revenue here. Actual number 23-24 was 526,007. This year to date, we're 4 times that. Okay, right, Kel? We saw this, and I was trying to work with this number, and it made no sense to me. This is a one-time thing. Only this year this will affect us. The state is advancing property tax dollars prior to the September revenue. So normally September and May are huge. We probably get 75% of all of our property tax revenue in those 2 months. They gave us some of September in advance. Okay, now it makes it a little more difficult to budget because they stick it in this fiscal year, which affects my starting balance for next year, which filters through my whole document and is telling me that I don't need very much money. Okay, because here's my starting balance. Notice this starting balance right here compared to these starting balances. 3.589 million compared to 2.593 and 2. This is because they have advanced us much of the September receipts. So once we get to October, things will kind of balance back out because we won't receive as much in September. They gave it to us in advance. But it messed with my budget. And made things complicated. And this number right here was telling me you don't need hardly any property tax. It was affecting my property tax request, which was affecting which is the bottom half, which was messing with this top half. But we got through it. It balances, and it's a 1-year only thing. So occasionally Kelly will get a notification from the Department of Ed, and it'll say you used to code this to this, but now code it to that. So sometimes you'll see some numbers that are completely maybe jacked. I'm looking for something specific here. Maybe I'm not going to find it. And it's only because it's coded to a different category. I thought I could find it.
The legal services, that's high, is that because
Yeah.
of the bond?
Yes, Justin. So we've already had more in legal services in the past 6 months than we had all of the previous last year. So I want to plan for, legal services through next summer, really through the whole fiscal year, budget year. So I don't know, folks, I work at your pleasure, and I create this budget for you, and you own it, but I respect the fact that you rely on me to prepare it, that I can do whatever you suggest or whatever you wish.
So how much of an increase in expenses have we had, or you're anticipating from the this last year to next year? Are you guessing 3%, 4%?
A specific percent, even probably lower than that. I'm anticipating maybe a $250,000.
Quarter million?
Maybe a $250,000 increase in expenses due to inflation, personnel. I'm not gonna say that I expect something in operation and maintenance that we have to repair or replace. You know, I do have another bus in this budget, another short bus in this budget, so I've got 100,000 in here for a short yellow. We've already paid for the white one that isn't here in this fiscal. So Wyatt, let me send a percent to you. I'm sorry, I should have been prepared for that.
It's like
Just general fund expenses.
It's about 10%, isn't it?
Okay.
I mean, because it says last year our disbursements were 6.5 million, this year we're budgeting 7.3.
Yeah, but I have to, actual disbursements and budgeted disbursements are gonna be different. So what I have to budget for disbursements is the total amount of funds that are in that, the total amount of monies that are in that fund. But it doesn't mean we're gonna spend it, and we never do.
We won't
So,
even get it all, right?
correct.
That's true too, if guys don't pay their property taxes.
Yeah.
that's
So
right.
we only get like
So-
93% or something like that, right, of what we
I'm
asked
sorry,
for?
say again.
93% or what'd you tell us?
Correct.
Something like that?
Correct, we never collect 100% of tax asking, it's usually between 90 and 95%. I think, I don't know what it was this year, but I bet it was 95 plus maybe, because we had excellent revenues this year. Justin, let me direct your attention to right here, for example. Okay, these are actual numbers from the AFR, so these are legit what we spent. This is very close to what we will have spent once we get to September 1 of this year. This is what's budgeted. We will not spend that. These numbers, when it was budget year 23-24, this was like 8.9. I mean, it was, you know, because you have to include, so look here, we're not gonna spend $225,000 in depreciation, but there will be that much in that fund. It has to show up here.
Well, we're taking it, I mean, we're adding to that fund that much, right?
It already has a balance of about 75,000.
Right.
So 150 and some, yeah.
But because you're adding it, that's why
Yeah.
you need the extra money.
Uh,
I mean, so technically we are spending, I mean,
You
it's
have-
expense, it's getting put away, we're asking to hold on.
Yeah, we're not gonna spend it, but you show that you're spending. I mean,
Well,
so,
you're showing that you need to acquire it,
yeah,
I guess.
yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Because we were gonna ask, we were
Yeah.
gonna add to depreciation, we could lower that to about 10 mil.
We're not gonna, we could, it has 150,000 that we budgeted over.
Okay.
But this is 4.4 cents, right, or 4.2. We're not gonna spend 1 million in the next fiscal year. Okay, we know we're gonna spend 500,000 on Lincoln Avenue, and then the rest is up to you. But we know half of that's gonna go out, so you could take 500,000 potentially off of here. So this number is always kind of alarming. They're like, you're gonna spend, you only spent 7.4 this year, you're gonna spend 10.3 next. No, this is what we have available to us essentially. It's what the balance of every fund is. And we're not tax asking this much in every fund. These are the only two tax asking funds.
I don't think you'd gotten it here yet, just the tax asking was.
It's decreased.
Yeah, I agree with that, we talked about.
So that's
Valuations went up, but we're gonna ask less than what we're currently
No,
asking.
now the actual dollars we're asking for is less.
Oh,
Yeah,
is it?
actual dollars.
That's
Yeah.
my point here, is that
Yeah.
what I saw between 23, 24, 24, and 25, we're showing a 4% increase in expenses,
Gotcha.
but you're only allowed, Dr. Arlt, an increase of allowable growth of 2.5. I don't wanna make sure we're gonna cut ourselves short here, but we
Yeah.
don't have a choice,
We had the
without,
same-
without sending out pink postcards.
Same conversation last year, right?
Yeah, right.
So, Justin, I wanna show you this page. This is pink postcard page, right?
Yeah.
So line 7 is less than line 6, therefore we are not required to attend. Now, you shouldn't build your budget based on attendance at the pink postcard bill. You build your budget based on what your needs are gonna be and what your priorities are. That doesn't mean you don't look at this, right? If it's kind of a goal of yours to send the message that we're staying within the Nebraska Department of Education expected growth. And, you know, we've stayed in that growth. Now, this would be the third budget cycle in a row if this is the budget that we want to promote. But Wyatt, you asked a good question, you ask it, you know, every year. Okay, we don't have to go to pink postcard, does that mean, you know, we're focusing too much on that and not enough on, can we pay the bills?
Just a simple question.
Yep.
Just wanna make sure that we aren't short. That's
Yep.
it.
Now we're gonna have to take
Yep.
out the CDs we just put in.
Something like
So,
that. Thank you.
which could happen, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but we wanna try to avoid that. And these are probably the two numbers that would solicit that question. Okay, so tax asking this fiscal year ending, tax asking proposed for next year. So even though we know inflation's gonna require more of our funds, personnel has gone up nominally, we're gonna ask for less money, but we do have a starting balance, we have a carryover balance that is significant, even with some of the September property tax receipts already in the bank. So,
If you're
I'm telling you,
comfortable
I'm
with it-
confident.
If you're confident with it, I'm confident with it.
And I understand it's your budget, but you rely on me. So, I'm comfortable with this. This is the primary number that I want, even though I know, you know, the general fund number, we gotta pay the bills. If you're okay with this, I can drive this down to 2 cents. The reason I'm asking for 2 cents more than last year is to plan and prepare for bus barn, stadium, press box. Let's leave those off the K-12 school conversation over the course of the next year, because they get lost in the conversation anyway. They're not gonna drive the bond issue down to, you know, 21 million when we say, but it just, we can handle those in a year or two of 4-cent building levies. And we still have the lowest total levy we've ever had. The highest valuation we ever had.
But, I mean, our asking's going down.
Well, we went up.
In general,
We went up
it
all
is.
the way total, we went up by about 150.
Special bill.
Oh, yeah,
That's,
Special
like,
bill.
like Dr. Hall said, he could take off 2
Yeah.
cents off of that,
Right.
but we're gonna X those projects then.
Yeah.
If you want to tell your stakeholders, we're asking for less general, we're asking for less total in real dollars, I can do that for you.
I don't think that's realistic.
I don't think it's realistic either.
Okay.
Nothing's getting cheaper.
Well, those are project, what he listed are project, you drive by the bus barn.
Yeah,
See
I
what
know.
that looks like.
Bus
If you
barn's-
go up inside that
Shambles.
crow's nest anyway at the grandstand.
I know.
It's rickety,
It's-
it's old,
it's bad.
and needs to get replaced. We have needs, we can't stop doing projects like that, we need to do that stuff. So, all for it, so that's great.
You have any, every year it comes up, you know, we ask, there's something that comes up and we say, have you budgeted for it? And are there some on your radar, I know you mentioned the bus, that might be, you know, bigger things that you budgeted for, that you're seeing we might need? Not gigantic projects, but just, you know.
Yeah.
Things like that sometimes we ask about.
Kel, have we talked about anything, or have you seen anything? You know, she's usually not, you know. But we talk daily about, while we're both sitting at our desks, hollering back and forth sometimes about, but I don't know that there's been anything that I'm recollecting at all that I'm like, that's a 6-figure expense that we normally don't have, that we need to plan for, that I haven't already shared. You know, your yellow will come up this fall. That's not a decision that you've already formally made, but I budgeted for it.
What would that yellow be used for?
The yellow will be used for route and activity. The white one is activity only. Activity, route if necessary, the other one's route, activity if necessary. Right now, I've got a big bus going with 5 kids a day, which I said, Bob, why don't I got a white van we can use for 1 more year. Well, that white van is going to Osmond, that white van is going to cross country, it's just not available every day.
So we talked, you know, you had a general fund or special building fund, I guess, you know, I guess that's, a lot of that's driven on those projects you talked about. Do we, you know, as far as advance, do we have any plans for any academic investment?
Well,
Anything going on academic?
and
Technology and everything's changing so
Yeah.
fast.
yeah, And we have made some significant investments in, you've heard, Jen talk about Haggerty and CKLA. She got a grant for, so we did science. So we do, it doesn't catch people's attention like stuff that's going on maybe in the football field or elsewhere, or a new white short bus. But we make six-figure investments easy in academics every year. Now, some people might suggest that's not really a whole lot of investment in maybe CTE equipment.
CTE is.
Career tech ed, so
Okay.
skilled trades, right?
Okay. Now, was that one of the survey questions? The CTE?
Yes.
That was one, okay.
Yes.
So that's what we're.
So, yeah, I'm sorry, CTE, so our shop, our ag, our small engines, our new shop teacher we hired is tearing apart small engines in this big, spool table, and kids are around, we haven't had that in a lot of years, love to see that. So if he's into that, I need to make sure he's got the equipment, because we don't have a whole lot, I don't know what you need for equipment for small engines. You need equipment for woodworking. Yes, we spent about $75,000 on Grizzly equipment about 5 years ago. So, but yes, Justin, you make a good point. If we're thinking about maybe AI, what kind of expenses are we gonna have in the coming years to prepare our kids for being entrepreneurs with AI and using AI in the workplace and what have you? I don't know, to be quite honest, what that is. But we budget for our one-to-one, so we rotate those out. Tom comes and gives you a presentation annually on what we need, for that. So when we get that question, certainly over the course of the next year, investments in academics, because we can see this and this and this and this. I get it, they don't always see our investments in academics, and so we need to be deliberate in sharing that information. And I can be prepared to do that at your request.
I mean, are there needs not being met on the academic side?
If
Because
there
we're
were needs not being
investing
met, your
something?
principals would
Right.
bring that
It
to
just-
you. And I think they have.
We just got done approving.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Curriculum.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
We just made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom was just in here, right? We just got done upgrading wireless, right?
Mhm.
Anyway, new server.
Yep. Yeah.
If it's being requested, we're approving it.
Yes, I don't know that you've denied any request by your principals. And I believe that they are not holding back on it, and it's not a principal's job to say, ooh, we gotta watch the budget. That's our job. And so I wouldn't know what to tell them to go out to say, hey, we're not providing this experience for our
That's what I was
kids.
wondering.
These
Is there
resources
something we're not providing?
Yeah, well.
There's always more you.
There is.
That we're aware of. I mean,
I saw-
Teachers have to want to use it.
Yeah.
Request it, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, or you have to have the teacher.
We can't read the minds.
Or you have to teach a skill set to use it.
Yeah, that too. Yep, finally got a shop teacher, right?
Right.
So,
Great points. I think oftentimes our teachers just get used to, this is what I have and this is what I work with. So about 10 years ago, when we started to go from projectors to smart panels, that's been a big deal. I saw these 3D science tables that go in the middle of your classroom and kids get around them, and there's holograms and things that, atoms and chemistry and stuff. And I sent it to my science teachers. Now they cost $100,000. And so we did kind of move on. But based on your suggestion, Justin, we say, well, I mean, that should be your decision.
Well, not all of it's worth entertaining, it's
Yes.
if it's worth the.
Yes, I mean, so obviously this was the latest in high school science classroom, A and P, so they can see the inside of a human heart and how it operates, It was very cool, but it is the latest, and it's very expensive. Will those prices be driven down if we wait 5 years again? So, yes, I don't know of anything that they're saying, we wish we had this, and I said, sorry, it's not in the budget. I don't know that I've ever said that to the teacher. They've come to you and asked for $50,000 for band uniforms, for example. I mean, so you've invested in not just academics, but in performing arts, I think,
just a thought here, anyway, on the building fund. I'm all for leaving that at 4.3 cents. If we don't pass a bond, or some sort of.
Yeah.
Investment anyway in our facilities anyway. I guess I sure would like to see that stay there if not increase. We're gonna have to make some sort of investment, at least in some bathrooms or to make some upgrades anyway. And whether that's in science rooms or whatever anyway.
Yeah. I had that same thought, Wyatt.
We gotta start doing it. We're gonna have a bathroom that hardly works now. If that's the case, I don't see that building fund going down
Yeah.
at all.
So when we had a 9-cent building fund several years ago, we didn't have these base growth limitations that we have now. So we'll almost certainly go pink postcard. If we wanna drive this up, in fact, I played with the building fund up to 6 cents. You know, and it was generating, well, figure $750,000. But it was sending us a pink postcard. And I thought, you know what, this year, we can afford to not drive that up, avoid pink postcard, just to keep that argument off the table, that we're not staying within the NDE recommended budget limitations. There's several ways to go over those budget limitations. One is you go to pink postcard, board decides. The other is you ask your voters for a levy increase. Now that's for somebody who's at $1.05 on the levy. Yeah, we got schools that are $1.25 on the levy. Now, they're running a bond with a $1.05 general levy, plus they're paying off 60, 70, 80, 100 million, 200 million, if you go to Pennington, whatever. You got $1.20, $1.30
West Side.
levy.
West Side, don't they do that every year? They have to have a
Yep.
special election,
They've got-
that way to
yep.
go over the
Yep.
$1.05.
Every year, West Side's stakeholders vote to go over the levy limit. That's their dynamic, that's fine. We're not gonna ask our people that, we're gonna ask them for something else. Well, this is just a 1-year budget. We're gonna be talking later about a 25-year budget.
But since we're asking for less this year, we're able to do that because of the money that we saved this year, and we're carrying it over.
Got the balance, our
So
starting balance.
next year, we won't be able to do
Uh,
this. This is just kind of we have an opportunity to, because we saved money, I guess we'll be able to save.
I think that's fair to say.
Right,
I think it's fair to say, Justin, that we might not have a 48-cent general levy next year.
right. But because we're fiscally conservative, saved money this year, we're able to now spend it next year and then not ask.
We
for
just
it.
had greater revenue than disbursements this year, so we have a nice carryover balance. So our starting balance for 25-26 is as high as it's ever been. So that's helping drive the levy down along with a $1 billion valuation.
Anybody else have questions about the budget?
Are we still getting money from the state, that $1,500 a student?
$1,590.
$1,590. And this will be third year in a row?
This is the third year. It was $1,500 the first year, $1,590 the last 2 years.
What is
that-
projected for next year?
Don't know yet.
Don't know.
They're definitely trying to increase it because the state strongly feels the state should pay for public education, not local tax.
Is that
Foundation maybe?
600,000 you were talking
Foundation.
about earlier?
Yeah.
That's that 600,000 you were
Yeah.
talking about earlier?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else you wanna see, details or anything like that, now's the chance?
I think it's about as good as you can ask for, honestly.
Well, then we need to move on to 9 and set budget and tax asking hearing dates. and times. You have a calendar?
Here comes the school calendar right here for September. The budget is due on the 30th of September, so you do have some time. We've got a meeting on the 8th. Your regular board meeting is on the 8th. The fourth Monday then obviously is the 14th, 22nd, which was generally been your facility conversation. This is moving slow for some reason. September's coming.
Haven't we in the past done it where we did our budget ahead of our regular at the same time?
We have, Chance, for the last 2 years, we've approved the budget after the regular September meeting for whatever reasons, we can do it on the 8th if you want. If this is the budget you wanna go with, we'll be ready. Why this isn't pulling up the full month, it's being. There you go.
I'm fine with doing it on the 8th as long as the public has an opportunity to ask questions during that budget meeting.
What we had done for many years is we had a 6:30 budget hearing on our regular September meeting. So that's the second Monday, which is the 8th, which is early, which is fine. We have a 6:30 budget hearing with a tax asking hearing to follow, with the regular board meeting to follow, which is generally about 7 or shortly thereafter. And then it was simply an action item in the regular September 8th monthly meeting to adopt the 25-26 budget. So it could be done on the 8th.
I say we do the.
Was there a reason why we did it later? last
We
week?
were still working on something or discussing something.
Aren't you waiting for some evaluation or something?
I wasn't waiting for evaluation, but I seem to recall that I'm still having a conversation about something, and maybe we're trying to avoid the pink postcard. I don't know. And then a year ago, they moved a budget adoption from the 20th to the 30th, so it made you feel like, hey, why are we in such a hurry? Let's just throw it in later. I think it's wise to do it on the 8th with the amount of other meetings that you
I was just gonna say, I think
have.
people
I
might
really don't want a
appreciate-
special meeting.
No, yeah, people might appreciate.
Because quite
being able to
honestly,
do it all one night.
you might come in and in a half hour's time, have your budget hearing, tax asking hearing, adopt the budget, we're done, which we can have on the 8th,
Sounds good.
if that's what you prefer. Okay?
Anybody got a problem with that?
No.
Okay. Let's just do it on the 8th.
Okay, will do. I will make sure the notices get proper to the paper and.
So we'll just start that meeting at 6:30, right? Or we have.
Yes,
6:30 that night.
on the
So-
8th will be budget and tax asking hearings at 6:30. Your regular meeting will be to follow, probably about 7, depending upon the amount of engagement we have with the public.
It'll still be in here then? right?
Yes.
What was the meeting we had that one year that was over there in that?
We had a book fair going on.
Oh, okay, that's probably.
Yeah.
Because I remember Doug Hall came that
Yeah.
day.
Okay, well, we got one action item in, discuss and take possible action on approving the final fiscal year 24-25 special ed bills.
Jill, do you have an amount?
A little over 100,000. Tim's got the, I don't have the total
Yeah,
out there.
so
but-
we didn't have these, we didn't have these bills last month.
Correct.
And they need them paid, or ask desperately that we get them paid before the end of fiscal year, because it just makes it easier for Ruth, who does our sped first, which is our special ed final,
In order to do the claim
Requests.
amount we're gonna have for next year, it has to be in this fiscal year. It has to be by the 31st of August.
we just need you to approve them now instead of on the 8th.
So that's the only thing.
110,000?
Yes, and there's 2 other ones. There should be one at Summerlin High School, and there's one for, I think, Overland. So I pulled out all the sped bills that were, and she does so many other schools, that it takes a bit to have that final bill ready to go. And that bill's for 2 months from the ESU, but that is the final.
Kelly, did you write a check to Summerlin?
Yeah, they have a speech person that comes out here. They have somebody on staff that does
Oh,
sped during
I
the
see.
summertime.
So they
Mhm.
contract them out?
Mhm,
I
mhm.
see.
It was, we paid O'Neill High School last year.
Okay.
We're using somebody from Summerlin this year.
Okay.
1176.51,
We need to get one of those.
Okay.
975.
I doubt it's cheaper to hire our own.
975.
I don't think that was a home, it's just probably,
112.
I don't think.
73 cents. Those are final sped bills for 24-25.
Okay, so the 3 checks total makes 112,177.7.
Just need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to spend the amount Tim just said. $112,177.73.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded to, approve the final fiscal year sped bills totaling $112,177.73. Any discussion? We'll vote. Melissa?
Yeah.
Gus?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Wyatt?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 6. All right, well, that's it for tonight.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Yep. I was just saying, goodness.